Hello friends, today I'm now going to discuss the construction of counter and how it works. So in our previous video, I have discussed the introduction of the counter, that is up counter, down counter, what is up counter, what is down counter, and what is triggering, etc. All. And I have discussed one more part that for mod and counter, there is another thing is that n less than equals for mod encounter for mod encounter capital N less than equals 2 to the power small n, where small n is the number of flip-flop. So today we'll discuss how the counter works. We'll start with very simple counter, that is mod 4 up counter. We'll start with very simple counter, that is mod 4 up counter. So how I will construct the mod 4 up counter? So mod 4 up counter means 4 less than equals 2 to the power n. So how many number of flip-flops here will be needed? Here will be needed n equals 2 flip-flop. And how the clock will be counted? The clock pulse will be counted in such a way as it is up counter. For up counter, clock pulse will be counted 0 to 2 to the power n minus 1. That means here the clock pulse will be counted 0 to 2 square minus 1. That means 0 to 3. That means 2 square means 4 minus 1. That means 0, 1, 2, 3. And another thing we have studied, that one rule, that PCU, that means for positive edge triggering, P for positive edge triggering. Positive edge triggering means what? Positive edge triggering is clock. If clock is given 1, if clock pulse is given 1, then flip-flop will be on. And if clock is given 0, then flip-flop will be off. That is positive edge triggering. And what is the PCU rules? PCU rules is if positive edge triggering, for positive edge triggering, if clock pulse and if complement means what here? If input is Q, then complement is Q bar. That means if input is 1, then complement will be 0. If complement is connected to the second flip-flop, then that is what? That is U. P for positive edge triggering, C for complement. It is trick to remember. If for positive edge triggering, if complement is connected to the second flip-flop, then it will be up counter. And for positive edge triggering means what? If clock is given 1, then flip-flop is on. If clock is given 0, then flip-flop will be off. And another thing here, before construction we have to know, here we will work on JK flip-flop. You can use T flip-flop also, but here we will work JK flip-flop. And here one thing you have to know, that is toggle condition. So I'll be discussed while discussing about the construction of that mod 4 up counter. So let's start. So first of all, mod 4 up counter means n equals 2. That means 2 flip-flop will be needed. So first of all, I have to draw 2 JK flip-flop. 2 JK flip-flop here. So we can see here there are 2 flip-flop is here. Here JK flip-flop, one is J1 K1, another is J2 K2, and Q1 is the input and Q1 bar is a complement. Here up counter sign is, you can see this triangle. Here it is a sign of up counter. And here Q bar is complement is connected to the second flip-flop. Here it is the first flip-flop. It is the second flip-flop. If complement is connected, here clock pulse will be given. Here clock pulse will be given here. So here clock pulse will be given. Now here clock pulse is given here. So what will be happen? Here complement is connected to the second flip-flop, that means up counter. So now how it will operate? It will operate, that means in toggle condition JK flip-flop obeys a rule. Always remember that Qn plus 1 equals Qn bar, that is Qn complement. If J equals 1, K equals 1, then flip-flop is toggle condition. That means if I am giving 1 1 here. So now I am discussing with the truth table. That means here I have to draw once again the flip flop here, up counter, Q bar, Q1 bar, Q1 bar, Q2 bar, here J1 JK flip flop, and here clock. Here complement is connected to the second flip flop. So here if I discuss the truth table here, that means here clock, here Q2, that means here Q2, and here Q1. So first nothing is given, clock is not given, that means Q1 is also 0, Q2 is also 0. Now JK flip-flop toggle condition, that means if J equals 1 given, K equals 1 given, if clock is given now. If clock is given now, then that means what? That means here JK flip-flop clock is given. Now the flip-flop will on, and flip-flop will do what? Flip-flop will toggle. Flip-flop will toggle the Q1. Toggle means what? That means here you have given JK flip-flop J equals 1, K equals 1. Clock pulse you have given. You have given clock pulse. Now it will toggle. Flip-flop will toggle what? Q1 input. This Q1 input. Q1 input is previous state is what? Previous state is 0. That means flip-flop will toggle 0. Toggle 0 means what? Flip-flop will do 0 to 1. Yes, flip-flop will do 0 to 1. I change the pen color, then you can understand it very easily. That means here what I am doing, here first clock is given J equals 1, K equals 1. Toggle condition. If clock is given, then toggle, flip-flop will start toggling. Flip-flop will start toggling means what? If here first input Q1 is what? 0, then flip-flop will toggle this state. It will toggle 0 to 1. 0 to 1 means it will toggle 0 input into the 1. And if Q1 is 1, then Q1 bar is what? Q1 bar is 0. If Q1 is 1, Q1 bar is 0. That means what? If Q1 bar is 0, 0 is given here. And here what counter we are working here? It is up counter. Up counter means what? Positive edge triggering. And for positive edge triggering, clock 0 means what? Clock 0 means flip-flop off. That means here after getting Q1 1, Q1 bar complement is 0. That means flip-flop will be off. That means second flip-flop will remain off. So Q2 input here will be 0. That means here for first clock pulse, we are getting Q1 is 1 and Q2 is 0. That's the thing. Now what? Now again after second clock pulse, I am doing the table here. Second clock pulse you are given. Second clock pulse will given, flip-flop will be on. Flip-flop will be on and it will toggle the Q1 input. Q1 input is what now? Here it is Q1 in Q2, Q1. Q1 input initial state. Now previous state is what? Previous state is 1 and it will toggle. 1 to toggling means what? Q1 will be now 0. Q1 0 means what? Q1 bar, that means complement will be 1. Complement 1 means here it will be given the clock 1. And clock 1 means what? Clock 1 means flip-flop will be on in the positive edge triggering. And flip-flop will be 1, that means what? Flip-flop will be 1, that means here it will again toggle the first state. Now here the second flip-flop is on. Now remember, here Q1 is, we are getting 0. We are getting Q1 is 0. Now the second clock pulse. After the second clock pulse, we are getting Q1 is 0. Q1 0 means what? Complement Q1 bar, that is 1. Complement Q1 bar 1 means what? Now this will given the clock pulse to the second flip-flop. Second flip-flop is there. And second flip-flop, if it is, it will get clock pulse 1. And clock pulse 1 means for positive edge triggering flip-flop will be on. After getting the flip-flop, second flip-flop on, second flip-flop will do what? Second flip-flop, after getting on, second flip-flop will toggle the Q2, previous state of Q2. Previous state of Q2 means what? 0 here in the red letter. Previous state of Q2 is 0 state means 1. That means here it will toggle the Q2. That means after second clock pulse we are getting 1. Now I am writing here neat and clean. So here clock pulse Q1, Q2, Q1. After without clock 0 0, then here 2 flip-flop is here. That means without any clock pulse, Q1 and Q2 are 0 0. After first clock pulse, flip-flop is remaining on. Flip-flop is on, that means it will toggle the initial state of Q1. Initial state of Q1 is what? Initial state of Q1 is 1. And if Q1 is 1, what is the Q1 bar complement? Q1 bar complement is 0. 0 means here Q complement is giving 0 to the second flip-flop. And clock 0 means what? For positive edge triggering, clock 0 means 0 means flip-flop off. That means second flip-flop will be also off. So for input, second flip-flop will be what? 0. Now for second clock pulse, what we will get? For second clock pulse, again I am giving the clock pulse to the first flip-flop. First flip-flop is getting clock pulse. After getting clock pulse, first flip-flop is getting on. Then flip-flop will do what? Flip-flop will do toggle the first initial previous state of the Q1. Previous state of the Q1 is what? Previous state of the Q1 is 1. And it will be toggled to 0. After it will be toggled to 0, Q1 is 0. That means complement will be 1. Complement 1 means here Q1 bar is given 1 to the second flip-flop. After getting 1, that means if clock pulse is 1, that means flip-flop will be on. Flip-flop on means what? This flip-flop is now on means it will toggle this in previous state of Q2. Previous state of Q2 is what? It is 0. And 0 to the toggle state what? 1. If I am giving third clock pulse means what? It will again the flip-flop is on. Flip-flop is on means what? It will toggle the previous input. Previous input of Q1 is what? 1. Previous input of Q1 is 1 means here Q1 bar complement is 0. 0 means now that means up to this in such a way up to the second clock pulse, third clock pulse, fourth clock pulse you can count. Then that means we are here that after second clock pulse we are getting 1 0. So after third clock pulse 0, here it is toggled to 1. Q1 is 1, that means complement will be 0. Complement will be 0, that means it will again off the second flip-flop. In such a way we can do the counting of clock pulse. In such a way we can do the counting of clock pulse. So here it is the construction of MOD-4 up counter. In such a way we can construct MOD-8 up counter, MOD-8 down counter, MOD-4 down counter, etc. So thanks for watching.